Welcome to the gold grading. This is where we're going to look at new cards in Magic the Gathering. We're going to take cards from the current set and assess them in 5 criteria, ranking 1 to 5. We're going to rank the ability of the card, what it does and when it does, flexibility, what situations we could see this being useful and when, the top deck, how we feel if we top deck this card late in the game with no other cards, how we feel about it being in our opening hand, and finally we'll give it a ranking on the Bring to Light scale. The Bring to Light scale is 1 to 5. 1 is never not hittable. 2 is it's our last resort. 3, it's a win more card. If we're already winning the game or we already have something set up, we could just throw it in. 4 is a signature slash golden bullet, basically like a supreme against a monocolored deck, something that we could pull out to give us an edge. And 5 is first call rivals Niv. Once we have a grade in all 5 of those categories, we'll take an average and assign it a grade based on the score it gets. So 1 will be an F to 5, which will be an A. That's it. Let's get into some new cards. Okay, our first card is Abigail, Eloquent First Year. Hybrid Orzhov for a flying first strike lifelink 1/1 bird bard. And his ability is pretty interesting. Whenever he enters the battlefield, target creature loses all abilities, and you put a flying counter, a first strike counter, and a lifelink counter on it. This is a really strong ability. It's solid enough to shut off anything that an opponent could do, so based purely on that, it's an ETB, it's immediate, and it's a powerful effect that lingers after he's gone. I'm going to rank that a 4. Moving along to flexibility, this is also a very high score. Abigail's ability doesn't have to target an opponent's creature. It is up to, so if we don't want to do it, we don't have to. But it's a nice ability, and putting a lifelink counter on one of our creatures against an aggro deck to make 2 lifelinkers can be huge. In the testing, I found myself multiple times playing Abigail after a Bring to Light to literally just turn Niv into a 6/6 lifelinker with first strike. So again, really strong. So we're going to give him another 4 out of 5 for that. Now, where he falls down, the top deck ability. If we top deck this card onto an empty board, like if we're just top decking, opponents have no cards, we have no cards, we have just drawn a 1/1 lifelinker. I mean, that's okay. The problem with that though is, in that situation, if our board is empty, we would throw him out and just have a 1/1, because we're probably not going to turn our opponent's 2/2 into a flying first strike. So he's not the worst thing you could top deck, but there are definitely better options, and he is a threat that goes forward, so I'm just going to give him a 1.25 here. I think that's pretty rough but fair. Now, how would we feel about having this card in our opening hand? I think it'd be very solid. It's not hard removal, and it's kind of a mid-game card, but a 2-mana card for our curve is pretty decent, and if our opponent is playing something absurd like a ramp deck or a Badger Maul Cub, and we just want to throw this out to just be like, turn that off immediately and slow down the opponent, I could definitely see us doing it. There are better things I'd want though in my opening hand, so I am going to slip it down to a 3 for Abigail. And finally, the Bring to Light scale. So, I believe Abigail here, he's going to be a straight up 4. He is situational or a golden bullet. If we are up against an aggro deck and we desperately want to turn one of our creatures into a lifelinker to get some life back, we grab Abigail. If our opponent has something obscene like Shieldred, if that ever becomes prevalent again, or Reflections of Kiki Jiki, or something we just have to turn off or we're done for, he is fetchable, but we'd also tutor a kill spell potentially. But I definitely see a scenario where he's a silver bullet that makes our creatures lifelinkers to help us stabilize, so we will give that a 4. And when we combine those grades together, Abigail, you come out at a C-, which is pretty fair. It's above average. It's a 3.5 out of 5. You've got to be S tier to get B or A. But yeah, that's our first card. So, move on to our next student. We have Tam, the Mindful First Year. 1 and a hybrid Simic for a legendary creature Gorgon Wizard, 2/2. With each other creature you control has hexproof from each of its colors, and she can tap herself. Target creature you control becomes all creatures until the end of turn. All colors till the end of turn, sorry. So the ability is static and powerful and enables certain strategies, for example, vivid or multicolored strategies. But in a Niv deck, I don't think that's going to be that relevant. Also, her ability is contingent on you already having a board, so very ruthlessly here, I'm going to put her as a 1 for her ability in terms of playing her in a Niv Delight deck. Flexibility, again, it's sadly going to have to be a 1. She is one purpose only. She protects other creatures on the board. It's a strong ability, but it's not flexible. We can give all colors if we had vivid synergies, but we don't, so... Also, she can't protect herself, and she can't tap right away, so flexibility, I'm afraid, is going to be another 1. Top deck, again, it's going to be pretty rough for Tam, I'm afraid. If we top deck this on empty board, it's a generic 2-2 that does nothing because we don't have anything else on our board, so again, I'm going to give it a 1 here because it just gets outclassed by anything I think our opponent would do, and I would be pretty... If I had no other cards in hand and my top deck was this, I wouldn't feel great about it. Opening hand, again, I'm going to throw it to a 1 here. Her abilities aren't coming out too strong. I don't think she's going to be playable in any kind of Niv deck. She strikes me as a sideboard card, so having her in my opening hand game 1, I would just not be impressed. I'd probably put her to the bottom if the first scry I could get. And finally, the Bring to Light scale. Yeah, she is pretty much the definition of a free here. She is a win more card. If we have a Niv Mizzet and an established board and we're going for pressing on a big lethal attack, we want to throw her down to be like, well, now your one removal spell has to kill her first, then kill the board, which is her purpose. But I really don't see her being run that much. So Tam, I'm afraid you get a grade of 1.4, which is solidly an F. Yeah, our first F. So situational very much, but definitely not something I don't think that's going to see play. Right, moving on, we have Sanor, the innovative first year. 2 hybrid is it for a legendary goblin sorcerer, 2/4 with vivid. At the beginning of your first main phase, reveal cards at the top of your library until you reveal X non-land cards, where X is the number of colors among permanents you control. For each of those colors, you may exile a card from among the exiled cards, and then shuffle the rest. You may cast the exiled cards this turn. Huge pile of text there. That ability, though, is every turn guarantee to hit 2 non-land permanents. So it's continuous card advantage if he stays around. So I'm going to rank his ability as actually going to be a 4 because it is pretty insane. So the key thing here is even if he exiles, moving into flexibility, even if you exile, say, a Vanishing Verse and you only have him out, you don't have to exile the Vanishing Verse. You can just shuffle it back into your deck. It's kind of like a spin every turn to try to win. However, in terms of flexibility, it is worth noticing that because we are a 2-color Niv deck, if we just have Sanor out, 7 of the 10 guilds are covered by him with an either blue or red pip. And that's not to mention that he hits Nivs as well and Bring to Lights. So he definitely, again, flexibility is a 4 here. He has only one ability, but the ability and its flexibility of just what it can hit, what it can do, and it's not a lock-in. It is weirdly flexible in what it can do for us. So moving along then, top deck. Top decking this guy on an empty board, I'm going to say it's a 3.5 out of 5. If I flip this card and I'm top decking, I'm like, yes, something that will generate advantage. However, I'm clenching because he has to live till my next main phase. So it's situational. Obviously, if you were to put this up and be like, you can top deck this or Bring to Light, I'm going to want the Bring to Light for an immediate ETB to gain some card advantage. However, if you were to say Sanor or any other generic spell in your deck slash land, I would want Sanor. So it's a solid 3.5 here. Opening hand. This is the definition of a 2.5 in my opinion of the opening hand. I look at him and go, he'd be great a bit later in the game. If we're mulliganing and we have to put a card back, we'd probably put him back. But overall, if I saw him in my opening hand, I'd be like, you're going to be great when I get to 4 mana. Again, so yeah, 2.5. I'm not going to like cringe and go, ew, but I'm also not going to go, yes, I've got him in my opening hand. Finally, on the Bring to Light scale, I'm going to have to give Sanor here a 3.5 because he's a weird fringe case where he is a win more card. If we have him out and Niv Mizzet, we're going to get 5 spells and guaranteed to hit all 5 of them. So that's a win more card if you ever heard of it. However, in a weird scenario when I was playtesting him, we had an opponent that in the sideboarded game brought in a Torpor Orb and basically mulled to oblivion to play the Torpor Orb. However, when I Bring to Lighted, I noticed that Sanor's an ETB, so I played him and he just started generating value because my opponent had obliterated their hand to get down to the Torpor Orb and he got round that. So he was a silver bullet in a fringe situation, so I could see him being useful in other situations. So I think he's going to sit as a 3.5 between the silver bullet and the win more case, which gives him an overall grade of a C, which is pretty good. It's the highest we got so far. And he's one that maybe you could consider for your 4-place flex slot. He currently goes up against Cavero and Toph, so don't think he wins out, but he's a cool thing if you want to try him. And finally, our final student here is Kirilo, the Attentive First Year. 1 hybrid Boros for a legendary vampire cleric, free with the ability to tap 2 untapped creatures you control, copy target triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Activate this only once a turn. So that ability is insane. It is a Panharmonicon 1-time a turn use. It does not require you to tap him, so he can do it immediately the turn he's in. He can tap creatures that have come in and triggered their abilities, so I'm going to rank that as a 4 out of 5. It's not, oh my god, it's so broken, it's insane. It's a good ability, and if you've built the deck around it, it could be really solid, but I don't think it's the best. Moving on to his flexibility, he has, well, insane flexibility. Copying any triggered ability in a Niv list is insane. Obviously, the dream is you have him out, you cast a Niv Mizzet, you double the reload trigger, 2 reloads, you're away at the races. But if you incidentally just have a ton of other abilities, you can do some really fun stuff. In my build of Niv, when I was testing him out, I had him copying the ETBs of the Biotech Visionaries to get extra landers to help me ramp my deck. I had him copying Toph's ETB trigger to get back double spell on her entry. I had him copying Toph's Earthbending trigger to get us bigger lands to block with in this one game. So he's going to be a straight up 5 here. Because basically, while his ability does one thing, it can do anything again. Any ETB again. And that could range from counter spells to bounce spells to protection to card advantage, whatever you need, he could do it. Now, unfortunately though, he falls down in the top deck category. So top deck, he's definitely a 1. If we're on an empty board with nothing in hand and we draw this guy, he's a 1. He's a cool free and he's a board presence, so you know he's better than a land. That's why it's never going to be a 0 with these creatures, but he needs someone else to do something. If you don't have another creature or another ability to copy here, yeah, not too great. Opening hand wise, this is definitely a 2.25 for me. It's not the best or the worst. He is a setup card. He definitely depends on having other cards in your hand. So if you see him and see a Niv, you're like, oh, that'd be cool if I get to that. So in the opening hand, he's almost weirdly better in your opening hand because you can plot a plan with him. But at the same time, if you have him a bunch of removal spells and lands and don't have anything else to do with him, he's kind of a drop. So I'd say slightly below average for that. So a 2.25 in the opening hand. And finally, the Bring to Light scale. Yeah, he's definitely going to be a 1 or 1.25 here. He is, yeah, a 1. Like, you will never Bring to Light for him, because why would you spend 5 mana to grab this guy and throw him out? Because then, yeah, you'd have to have a triggered ability already on the field, and most of the abilities in Niv decks are ETBs. I don't know of any that trigger at the start of combat or the end of turn, so I think, yeah, he'd be a 1 there. However, though, the power of his ability does give him a total grade of a D. And that's our final ranking. So that's how I feel about these cards. Doesn't mean you shouldn't play them. You should experiment with your own toolbox sets. But this is from my experience of testing them. And from this set of cards, I definitely think Abigail is something that I'm going to continue to test with. Maybe as like a silver bullet 1-of in the deck. Sanor is a pretty cool 4-drop for the flex drop 4 slot. But I don't think I'll be replacing Toph or the Kaiveru the Mindbender. But yeah, those are the two that I think would be cool to consider for a Niv deck. Hope you enjoyed it.